Hello guys! Today we're going to see matching features, a new reading question type. As you can see, we've got matching features here because they say match each statement and then they give you a list of researchers and they are in a box. Another thing that we need to pay attention to is in the matching features, sometimes we could use one letter from the box more than one time. We cannot repeat the options. But other times, we are not allowed to do that. So I really need to pay attention to this NB signal at the beginning of your task. If we have it, it means that we are allowed to do it. Otherwise, we cannot repeat the options. So the first thing that we have to know is that the statements are not in order. So we need to read all the statements first and underline the context keywords, those words that are unique and specific to that topic. So from question 19 to 23, we are going to highlight the specific words for the topic. Let's have a look at question 19, and we have domestication. Certain plants allowed them to adapt to future environmental challenges. Pretty much everything, but now we're going to pay attention to 20. So the idea, growing and eating unusual plants may not be accepted, so not accepted on a large scale in the big picture. 21, they say not advisable, so that's important. All the things that are negative, we should highlight them for the future direction of certain research. So certain research to be made public. Question 22. Again, we have efforts to domesticate one wild fruit, limited by the costs. And finally, humans only make use of a small proportion of the plant food available on Earth. So they just use a small proportion of the food available. All the keywords that you can see are different from question to question. So we should be able to try to do that. The more unique the context keywords, the easier it would be for me to scan the text and find those keywords in the passage. So now I'm going to pay attention to the box. I've got different names and I have now to find the names in the text. So I'm going to scan it, looking for the names, and I'm just going to highlight the features, so the names in the text. This means I'm not going to read. Scanning is looking for names without reading. So let's begin. Names. Any of the names from the list. So we've got Cutler there. We've got Kaisha Gao, another one, another name. So I'm going to highlight that. So not names of places or names of people, researchers. No. Cutlass again. Cutlass team. Another one. Again, Cutler in the same paragraph. Paragraph C. Okay, paragraph D. They are giving me Joyce Van Eyck. Again, Van Eyck's team. Van Eyck again. Something about Jonathan Johns there. We've got Gao again. cutler again, and that's it. So as you can see, I spent very little time in the text because it was just looking for capital letters and names. So because I haven't read this text before, I would have to get some more information and a little bit more of context about the text before choosing the features and focusing on the statements. So what we're going to do is we're going to skim the text from the beginning, from paragraph A. And the way to skim is that we read 2-3 lines at the beginning of the paragraph, 2-3 lines at the end of the paragraph, just to get the main gist and the main ideas of the text. Then whenever I find a name, I'm gonna read in detail, I'm gonna read more slowly, trying to match any keyword, context keyword that I would have in the questions. This approach relies on the revolutionary genome editing technique, in which changes are deliberately made to the DNA of a living cell, allowing genetic material to be added, removed, or altered. Such as the rice, fungus, domesticated wheat crops. This could transform what we eat. University in Germany. There are 50,000 edible plants in the world, but 90% of our energy comes from just 15 crops. Okay, so quite interesting that we have a lot of edible plants, but 90% comes from just 15. We can now mimic the now domestication course of major crops like rice, maize, sorghum, or others. Okay, so mimic domestication course of major crops. Then we might try to domesticate plants that have never been domesticated. So let's see if I can match it with any of the questions. So small proportion, as we said, is 15 out of the plant food available, which is 50,000 edible plants. So I would say that is this jaw cutler. So once again, we're gonna move on to the next section that is around the names. So we're gonna continue skimming. Well, tomatoes were to notice of the Andes regions of America produce species like fruit. Okay. Okay, let's get closer to the name. So by comparing the genomes of modern plants to those of the wild relatives, biologists have been working out what genetic changes occurred as plants were domesticated. Teams will use this knowledge to reintroduce these changes from scratch while maintaining or even enhancing the desirable traits of wild strains. So that looks interesting. Just around paragraph C, that is about a new name. Again, Cutler team. For instance, they tripled the size of fruit by editing a gene called fruit weight and increased the number of tomatoes per truss by editing another. While the historical domestication of tomatoes reduced levels of the red pigment, instead the wild tomato had twice as much as the newly domesticated one has 5 times as much. Okay, they're quite tasty, said Cutler, a bit strong and very aromatic. Okay, fair point. Let's see if something rings a bell. Something about the taste. So as we can see, not really, so we're going to keep reading a little bit more. We're going to keep skimming. The team in China domesticated several strains of wild tomatoes with the desirable trait lost in domesticated tomatoes. In this way, they managed to create a strain resistant to a common disease. We can demonstrate yields. They also created another strain that is more salt tolerant and has higher levels of vitamin C. Meanwhile, Joyce Van Eyck and New York decided to use the same approach to domesticate the ground cherry or golden berry for the first time. This fruit looks similar to the closely related ground cherries are already sold. So that's quite interesting. Hard to produce because the plant has a sprawling growth habit. The branches went ripe. So these ground cherries are hard to produce. It has edited the plants to increase fruit size, make their growth more compact, and to stop fruits dropping. There's potential for this to be a commercial crop. That shows that taking the work further would be expensive. So we have here something about the cost, because of the need to pay for a license for the CRISPR technology to get regulatory travel. So the only one that mentions something about the cost was question 22, that it was when one fruit, wild, so the berries, could be domesticated, but that would make it very expensive. So question 22 could be Van Eyck. Let's continue reading a little bit more for the next name on the list. This approach could use the use of many obscure plants. Says in the UK, it will be hard for new foods to grow so popular with farmers and consumers. So I think that question 20 is related about unusual plants. That would be these obscure plants that they talk about in paragraph E. And this Jonathan Jones says that it's hard for new customers, so for the consumers and farmers, to accept them. So that audience would be the large scale, so that the plant would not be accepted by farmers and consumers, customers. So paragraph E could be question 20. Let's see if we have something else about Gao. 3 teams already have their eye on other plants that could be catapulted to deter foxtail, oakgrass and copy by choosing plants that, says Gao. We could create crops that will thrive even as the planet warms, so because of climate change. And question 19 actually speaks about the environmental challenges in the future, and that some plants could be adapted to those challenges. So question 19 looks like it is connected to Gao's comment about creating crops that will thrive, so that will be adapted even with some environmental challenges as the planet warms. Let's have a look at the last paragraph we have with the other name. Species where it seems like because it's made the process so easy, and one with the right skills could go to the lab and do this. So this Cutler says didn't want to reveal, so it means not made public, I would say. So question 21 is related to not reveal it to the public. And basically, that's about it, really. Matching features for me is one of the easiest kind of questions in the reading test. If your scanning techniques and your skimming techniques are spot on, it's one of the tasks that you can do probably in between 5 or 10 minutes. because it's just about finding the right synonyms, the right paraphrasings of the statements around the names that you have as features. Okay, so that's all for me. I hope that this was useful and see you soon. Bye.